Hello and welcome to the Story Behind the Stories, your weekly look at the pages of the Neepawa Banner Press. Thank you very much for taking a little bit of your time and spending it here with us on NACTV. I'm Eoin Devereux with the Banner Press, welcoming you to this week's edition of the program. And I am joined this week by journalist Casper Wehrhahn. Casper, good to have you here this week.
Good to be here, and we certainly have a lot to go through for this week's paper. Very full, 24 pages, and we had some developments this morning too, didn't we? We had to shuffle around the schedule of what we're going to talk about today.
Most definitely. 24 pages. We do not have enough time in the next 30 minutes to be able to cover every interesting aspect of the news that we were able to get for this week's newspaper. That's why you always got to remember to pick up a copy of it anywhere in 30 different communities throughout Western Manitoba, or check it out online at mywestman.ca. We're going to change format just slightly here. Normally, we start at the beginning, which is the front page, and we will get to that in a few minutes. But I want to give an update on a developing story that is on the go right now here in the town of Neepawa. It is actually on page, page 7 of this week's edition. Some technical issues are causing a delay for the ice installation at the Yellowhead Center here in Neepawa. If you are unfamiliar with the facility, it is a community-owned, community-operated facility. It has been in operation since 1972. It was converted in 71 from the salt mines into a arena complex, which has a hall attached to it as well. Hockey, ice skating, all these types of winter activities are a hub of the Yellowhead Center on a yearly basis. As they were putting in the ice last week, they ran into a technical issue. The brine, part of the liquid, part of the components that make up the ice and the freezing of the ice, was seeping out of one of the pipelines. We're not going to get too technical on it because I'm not that much of a technical guy myself, but essentially there's pipes underneath the concrete on the arena floor that help keep the ice chilled at a consistent level and ensure that it stays at that level in the fall, into the winter, into the spring, and possibly into the summer. But there was a leak in there, so they weren't able to put the ice in. They had to stop. They had to do a full stop on the installation of the ice and check out the systems. They had a company come in from Winnipeg, actually check the lines, look after the lines, and see where the problem was. I'm very happy to be able to say, as of this moment in time, as we're recording this, we're hitting into a probable best case scenario. And the best case scenario is that it is one line. At this moment in time, it appears as though the issue is only one of these lines underneath. So they're going to have to jackhammer out a portion of the arena floor, fix that line, and then repave the whole thing, flatten it out, straighten it out like that. It could have been a lot worse. There are many, about a dozen or so, if not more, of these lines that run underneath the entirety of the arena floor. If it had been a bigger issue than that, they would have had to have taken out the entire concrete floor at the Yellowhead Center and gone through them each and every step of the way. And what that means is there would be no hockey, there would be no ice skating, there would be no figure skating, there would be no activities whatsoever happening in the community of Neepawa in 2024 and most likely 2025. That's a worst case scenario that could have occurred. But fortunately, as we're recording right now, it looks like we're not going to hit that. Having said that, you never know. Once they get in there, who knows what could happen. But this brings up something else. I want you to read the story. It doesn't have all these details in there. But I'm going to share with you right now some breaking news, some new stuff that I was taught and told about this morning. Some representatives, some people schooled me on a couple of the things that need to happen in the future. Like I said, the Yellowhead Center is 52 years old. 1972. It's so old, it's older than me. So that's pretty darn old. But they've tried to refurbish it and improve it over the years as best they can. But like I told you earlier, it is a community-owned, community-run, community volunteer-operated facility. For those of you that don't understand what that actually means, It means that the town proper doesn't own, doesn't run, doesn't do anything for the most part directly for the Yellowhead Center. I should clarify that though. Each year in the town budget, they set aside funding support for several worthy organizations and groups. And one of them is the Yellowhead Center. Each and every year, they set aside roughly, I'm paraphrasing off the top of my head here, around $100,000 that goes directly towards supporting the operation of the Yellowhead Center. $100,000 to you, $100,000 to me, that's a good amount of money for a year. I could think of, Casper, of a lot of things I could do over 365 days with $100,000. Well, you know, okay, now I'm just going to think about that. Maybe a vacation or two, get a nice shiny new vehicle, but you know.
Yeah.
I'm sure
There's a
you
lot
could as
you
well.
could do. It's a nice, it's pretty penny.
Oh yeah.
However, this isn't individual. It's
Yeah.
a giant facility.
Exactly. That's a very valid point. $100,000 for a facility of the scope, size of the Yellowhead Center just isn't going to be able to do it anymore. And when I tell people outside of Neepawa, and even inside of Neepawa, there's still a fair amount of people who have no idea that the Yellowhead Center is not operated by the town proper. When I tell people that it is a volunteer-run building, most of them are surprised, as well they should be, because most arenas in communities aren't like that. The nearest example I can give you is a little down the road in Portage la Prairie, and the Centennial Arena over by the bridge and the railroad tracks in Portage la Prairie is volunteer-run completely. And but there's a big difference there, because that's the secondary arena now in the city of Portage la Prairie. The main arena, Stride Place, is built, operated, repaired, and kept up to standard by the city of Portage la Prairie, just like everywhere else. That new arena that's being built in Steinbach by the city of Steinbach. That new arena that was built in the town of Niverville, a community comparable to the size of the town of Neepawa, mind you, in population, was built by the town of Niverville. Verdun, same situation. Selkirk, same situation. Dauphin, exact same situation. They are all run, they are all operated, they are all built by the community, the town, the administration, however you want to phrase it. Neepawa is the only one in Manitoba that has this unique circumstance. And that's great. It's wonderful that there's volunteers that see value and step up and are able to help out in any way, shape, or form. But we are getting to the point where the warranties run out on a lot of things. There are several pieces of high maintenance equipment that are about to run out of their limits. They can operate for about 25 years or so, and they're on year 23, they're on year 24. These things were assisted, they were built, they were reconstructed in 1996, and their shelf life is coming to an end. The pipes that we were talking about earlier have never been replaced. They're the same ones that have been in there since 1972, so I find it amazing that they've lasted this long. But I'm painting all this picture together for you for one specific reason. The lifespan of the Yellowhead Center is about to come to an end very soon. Much sooner, potentially, than people want to admit. Much sooner, potentially, than people are going to sort of expect. So there need to be plans in place. People in administrative positions, people in technical positions, people with higher pay scales than I got or you got need to be coming up with a plan right now, because there is no plan. Nobody's figured this out. Somebody in this town needs to start talking to somebody else here, because there is a very real possibility that within 5 years, done, gone, good night. It's just going to be a really nice looking storage shed, unless some people start talking to some other people and figuring out a plan. Now a new arena is not on the board. That's a non-starter as far as I'm concerned. Most likely because the town of Neepawa has to pay for road and sewer on their expansions. That's just the necessity. That is the priority, as it should be. But there needs to be some sort of plan with the Yellowhead board. People need to start talking to people on this and get working on some sort of contingency plan. Now, whether that's actually chipping in a few extra bucks in the budget, whether it's taking over the facility's operations, or something needs to be done, because we are reaching the time limit. We are reaching the deadline for the usefulness and the capacity of usage for the Yellowhead Center. Now, I'm sorry to go off on a little bit of a side note here. And quite honestly, if you are a loyal and consistent viewer of the show, you're probably genuinely surprised I haven't started ranting and yelling a lot more. But as I age, I'm getting to get a little more calmer, a little more serene. It's just like, it is what it is. But this is one of those things of the damage, the repairs that need to be done at the Yellowhead over the next few days could have been a lot worse. And if they had been a lot worse, God help the town of Neepawa, because there'd be a big bill due, and I'm just wondering who the hell would pay it. But again, like I said, I got off on a little minor diatribe there, Casper. You got anything you want to chime in on the fact that things age? As a person who is at that age right now where you're not aging, but once you hit 30,
oh boy.
Yeah. But you're at the sweet spot right now where the warranty is still in effect. Let me get your take though.
It's a lot to consider. You've raised so many good points, and this is something that's kind of been talked about, at least in office for a while, just sort of in general terms. About the Yellowhead and its age and all of that sort of stuff, and what, if anything, is possibly being considered for contingencies for the future because of its age. Sure, there's a lot of things that can be done at the Yellowhead Center and the hall that don't necessarily require ice. Like, I know the gym classes and whatnot go in there from time to time for different activities from the schools and all that sort of stuff. But there's a lot of groups that do use it for the ice as well. Of course, there's a team, there's the ice skating, as you've mentioned, and other stuff that I'm not thinking of right now. And, all of that has an impact. And with the things you've brought up about the different equipment, in addition to the lines that they're having issue with right now, that all adds up. Mm-hmm. And you got to be thinking about that stuff, and you got to be planning for that stuff, and finding a way forward, whether that's replacing or a new facility or whatever it is. Yeah. Because, people who live here, they go there to do activities. People come here to do activities. And so aside from the recreation being available and giving people things to do, giving youth things to do, that's also a big hit on revenue. And of course, it's not owned by the town, but it's still something that is considered economically for the town as well.
You bring up a very valid point here, and I'm going to get going again. Because again, there's some people in positions of power that think about the facility, and for the most part just think about the Neepawa Titans, and they don't care. I can't say individuals who do and whom don't care, but there are individuals that don't care and don't see the value of the Neepawa Titans in the community of Neepawa. And that's not the entirety of the Yellowhead Center. You also got the senior team, the farmers that play out there, the Neepawa Figure Skating Club. You also have the Neepawa Tigers high school team. And this is the one I want to focus on specifically, is that you have minor hockey. And every weekend, there's some sort of minor hockey event going on. And 3 or 4 or 5 times during the winter, there are minor hockey tournaments. And minor hockey tournaments bring in 4, 5, 6, 7 different teams from 7 different communities with all the assortment of coaches and parents and kids. And they're not commuting back and forth from home after their games. They're staying in this community. They're eating in our restaurants. They are sleeping in our hotels. They are giving money to our community type thing. There is a lot of value, a lot of finance that goes through the town of Neepawa thanks to the Yellowhead Center. And there are some people, quite honestly, who make decisions in this town who maybe don't know that because they don't spend any time there. I'm not going to... this sounds like I'm throwing a lot more blame out at certain people, and I'm not meaning to. Because this is not just people who are running the show right now financially in the aspects of Neepawa. This is an issue that everybody's got to share. Every member of council for the last 20 years, every member of the Yellowhead board for the last 20 years, every representative of every organization that runs through the Yellowhead Center has to own this, myself included. I spent several years as a board member of the Neepawa, at the time, the Neepawa Natives. So I gotta own a little bit of this myself. That there wasn't the forethought, the foresight to think, hey guys, hey people, this is starting to get to a point where we need to start thinking about the future. We need to start thinking about how we redevelop this facility, how we get another 5 years out of it, how we get another 10 years out of it, how we get another 20 years out of it. And nobody brought that up in the conversation. Not in 2020, not in 2015, not in 2010. There were 1 or 2 people that did. And again, I'm not going to name names, but everybody knows who you are, that were saying, guys, there's a deadline here. There is a past due date for this facility, and we need to start figuring it out. But nobody listened. Nobody heard it, it seems. And now we're at that end game. So what are we going to do about it? Right now, probably nothing. Probably nothing. Because that's the way this town is from time to time. And again, this is my opinion. This is not the opinion of the Neepawa Banner Press in any way, shape, or form. This is not the opinion of NACTV in any way, shape, or form. This is just my personal opinion and all. And of course, my opinion could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I would love to be able to come on here in next week's edition of the program or a few weeks down the line and say, I was wrong about this. I was an idiot. I misunderstood. Nothing would make me happier to be a complete and utter idiot in this conversation. I'm an idiot in a lot of other things. So it'd be nice to be in one that's a more positive, progressive step forward for our community. I spent a lot of time on this one, and we had so much to cover here. I apologize if you wanted to hear some of these other stories, but I wanted to get this out of the way. Like this is, shrinks are expensive, Casper, and this is a really nice little bit of therapy every week.
Good little outlet for 30 minutes.
That's right. Let's get on to these good news stories, most definitely. And on the front page, this is wonderful. The Carberry Memorial that went up for the bus crash victims, the survivors, and more importantly, even though I'm glad that they were represented, the first responders. It was over a year ago, that tragic accident that occurred on the outskirts of the community of Carberry. Last weekend, our representative in Carberry, Jolene, was able to get pictures and a story together, as well as Rain Pryor, who is a part of NACTV. She was down there as well and was able to get some pictures for us as well. Very appreciative of that, Rain, and share that story. And it's an important story to be able to share. These people cannot and should not be forgotten. And it's wonderful to see this memorial, a wonderful representation of that. I am so proud that we were able to get that and be able to share it with you on our front page.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, like Eoin said, there's a lot of people that were impacted from what occurred. Of course, the people who were unfortunately lost, the families of those lost, and the first responders, everyone that helped out in the aftermath. So it was very good to see this going up, of course, and reading Jolene's story on it, seeing Rain's pictures and all that. I mean, it's a beautiful memorial there. Just with the memorial site itself, and then with the surrounding area too. I mean, it's a beautiful green space, very wonderfully done, and it definitely seems like people are really appreciating the efforts put into this, and so quickly as well. And just touching on the story itself a little bit too, I'm a little bit of an emotional person. Some things can get to me, and when I was reading Jolene's story there, hearing about, obviously the day was windy, it had windy conditions, there was portraits of people put up there, and with the wind, some of them were falling over. And people stepped up so quickly to go up and hold those photos in place for the duration of the ceremony, which was really, really touching.
Mm-hmm. If you'd like to learn a little bit more about it, you can check it out in this week's edition of the Banner Press. Page 1 continues on to page 18. And as I said, representatives with NACTV were also down at the event. So remember to keep tabs on your local listings on NACTV for video and more discussion on that one. So always remember to keep, if you can't get it in the Banner Press, keep an eye right here on NACTV. So I want to shift over gears very quickly, a little bit closer to home. For the 4th straight year, an organization that has true value on a national level, supporting responders and soldiers and police officers and those that are dealing with PTSD, came rolling once again into Neepawa. And Casper, you've got the details on that one, don't you?
I sure do, yeah. This was on last Friday, actually, August 9th. And, it's a big event each and every year. And this year was certainly no exception. I don't recall off the top of my head how many bikes there were this year, how many riders, but it was just as significant as previous years. There was a massive parade of motorcyclists that came into town that day, that evening, who are, of course, the Rolling Barrage. And they get out there, they do their coast-to-coast ride each and every year, raising awareness about PTSD, trying to end the stigma surrounding PTSD, and, of course, raising funds to support, supports and supportive organizations that deal with the individuals impacted by PTSD, specifically people such as Eoin said, first responders, armed forces, et cetera, et cetera. They do have a lot of good information on their website on that, so definitely check that out if you're curious and want to learn more. But yeah, I was able to go down there, get some pictures of them rolling in, which you can see on page 2 of this paper. Pictures of some of the riders, some of the bikes that were there on display, and of course there's some fun being had there. So I was able to get a photo of a mother and her son posing with one of the riders on the bikes too, which was great. There's a lot of people curious about what this group is about, and of course the bikes themselves, and it seemed like it was a good time all around.
What I really like is 4 years ago I covered it for the very first time when it was the inaugural one that was passing through Neepawa, and just the sheer crowd size that came out and supported it. That stuck with the representatives and the leadership of the Rolling Barrage. There's a reason they come to Neepawa each and every year. This is a cross-Canada event, and they see a community of about 5,000 people in middle of Manitoba, and they see value in saying, this is a place we want to be. This is a place we want to stop. This is a place we want to interact with the people. That means something to them, and it should mean something for us. Don't take this for granted. If you can get out there to the Rolling Barrage and see it for yourself, I say go for it. I mean, they're a wonderful group of people. Sure, they look a little tough. They look a little gruff. They look like a bike gang from back in the day. But most of them, if all of them, are just good people that enjoy the hobby of cycling and want to be able to share the experience. And it's wonderful to be able to support them in this way. So again, let me get, what was your takeaway? Just how many, I forget, Casper, how many times have you been able to sort of cover this? So first time or second time?
Second time, I believe, yep. I think I went to the one last year. I think it was last year. But one of the prior ones anyway. So yeah, this is, I believe, the second year I've covered it. And I mean, it's a fantastic impression every single time, both on the part of the riders rolling in. I mean, it's a massive crowd of riders, and of course the support that shows up as well. I mean, it's always wonderful to get out there and see the event for yourself. And actually there was a special edition this year, not in the form of a bike, but in the form of a trailer. If I can recall the name off the top of my head, because I did speak to her, Sue Milner, who is part of the barrage, had a trailer that was dedicated to recognizing those that served in Afghanistan. So if you are along one of the stops that is still planned, I think it's still going on right now, potentially, and you know that is relevant to your family. She said she would love to meet anyone who had someone who served in Afghanistan. She'd love to talk with them, meet with them, and get to know them. So if you can, reach out to her, meet her if you're able to, and yeah.
That's fantastic to be able to share that new expanded sort of concept that they're developing for this year's Rolling Barrage. We only got about 4 minutes left in the program, and there is so much more we could talk about. We're going to have to do a sort of a rolling barrage of topics, as it were, you know, in terms of this. I went off a little bit earlier on in the show, and that took up some time. So that's why, again, you got to pick up a copy of the paper to get the inside scoop on a couple of stories. Like, first off, we have now a new general manager, the inaugural general manager for the new hotel that is being developed in Neepawa. John Anderson will be taking over the new Best Western Plus that is currently being constructed here in Neepawa. I had a chance to speak with him, some of his experiences, 35 years of experience in hotel management. The man's been around, he's seen a lot of things. He has a vision for how he wants the Best Western to sort of come about right here in Neepawa, and he has a concept and a belief in the community of Neepawa. He likes what he sees. Despite my little diatribes and little going off on this show from time to time, people still like the town of Neepawa. So, and that's wonderful to see. It's wonderful to see that people see what we have, this special little community that we do have, and they don't take it for granted. So it's wonderful that I was able to speak to John about that and get a little bit of information. Just again, really quick, Ken Waddell has a story in here. He goes in depth into the issues with CAT scans and the fact that they're so few and far between in rural Manitoba. So he has a really in-depth sort of examination on that. And you helped put that page together, right, Casper? Didn't you?
I sure did. Yeah, the massive chart that you can see on the right side of the page, I did that up for him, and it sort of goes through the number of beds that are available in each healthcare facility, just to sort of show a perspective on, yeah, these are the facilities that have CAT scans, these are the number of beds that they have, just to sort of show a size comparison for context with Ken's story, because he does go into some details there to really just sort of highlight his point.
That's right. As well, on the pages, these 24 pages, we got all the results from the Manitoba Beef Roundup, the results from the 2024 event, as well as the event in Kelwood. That takes up a couple pages. We also have, Casper, your pictures and details on the Miracle Treat Day that happened over at the DQ.
Yes.
It looked like that was a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, there was good live music, lots of people laughing and smiling. That's always great to see. And I mean, common sight at Miracle Treat Day, you have good company, friends, family, what have you, people just passing by, saying hello. And, well, I mean, tasty frozen treats, right? Mm-hmm. So it's always a great combo, and they had some face painting this year too. And of course, the staff were hard at work supporting the Children's Miracle Network Hospital in Winnipeg.
So much more we could talk about. The club championships in the Minnedosa and Neepawa golf clubs, the Titans Classic Golf Tournament, the Kelwood Fair. That's why you got to pick up a copy in 30 different locations throughout Western Manitoba or on mywestman.ca. And always remember, if you have a story suggestion or you'd like to complain about my ranting, you can always give us a call at 476 3401 or news@neepawabanner.com. You can complain about it. It's not going to change. I'm still going to rant about stuff. But if you have any suggestions, it's always appreciated. Once again, Casper, thank you very much. Always appreciative of taking a little time on the show.
Of course, and thank you for being here with me and sharing all your thoughts and hard work with everyone.
And thank you for tuning in each and every week to the story behind the stories. Have yourself another fantastic week.